Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Youth Man. Can you see the smile on my face? Today has been an incredible day. I had a chance this morning to invite 5 friends over. Now 2 of these guys I've known for a long time, for many years, and 3 other guys were new friends that I've made over the past several weeks through the forums, through the Facebook groups. And so I invited them over to my home so that we could demo and compare the Klipsch RF-7s to the RF-7 IIs and the RF-7 IIIs. Our purpose in getting together was more of a fellowship and just enjoying Klipsch speakers together and hearing these speakers for the first time. None of us had really heard the RF-7 IIIs. I had been listening to them just casually over the past week. I wanted them to have a good amount of break-in, so I would just let them play in the morning, go to work, come back home, and just continue to let them play. I never really sat down to do any kind of critical listening to try to see what I was listening for and what I was hearing with my own ears. And so this morning the guys came, and of course we had some food and some snacks, and after that we just began to go through different songs that each one of us were familiar with. So whoever was the most familiar with the song, we allowed them to sit in the primary listening position, because we figured that they would be the one that would understand and be able to hear the nuances of that song or of that track more than the rest of us. And so as you can see in this picture, we set up the Klipsch RF-7s, the RF-7 IIs, the RF-7 IIIs, but we also had a second pair of RF-7 IIs. The reason why I had 2 pairs of RF-7s is, as I mentioned in previous videos, my RF-7 IIs have the Dean G crossovers. And I realize that most of you guys watching this video probably don't have your crossovers modified. I wanted to be able to listen to the RF-7 IIs the way that most of you guys would be listening. Now I also want to share that my living room isn't acoustic treated. It is just your everyday average living room setup. One good thing about that is a lot of you guys have that in your living room. You've got just a regular living room. You don't have a dedicated theater room. You may not have acoustic panels on your walls. You just have a living room or a bedroom, and you want to know, how do these speakers sound? For most of the day, we did not use my RF-7 IIs with the Dean G crossovers. We didn't do that until later, and I'll explain that in a little bit. For most of the day, we used the RF-7s versus the RF-7 IIs with stock crossovers against the RF-7 IIIs. One thing we all concluded was that the original RF-7s definitely were the brightest sounding speaker. Now in my living room, because I don't have any acoustic treatments on the walls, it is a lively room, and so I believe that that would kind of magnify and emphasize those high frequencies. So after just a few songs of switching between the 7s, the 7 IIs, and the 7 IIIs, I began to notice we started not to switch back to the original 7s. Our focus really was on the 7 IIs and 7 IIIs. All of us agreed those were the ones that sounded the best to our ears. And so as we began to progress through different songs, different genres, one of the things that we really noticed with the RF-7 IIIs was definitely they have a smoother top end, but we all agreed that they seem to have a more balanced sound from top to bottom. Now the RF-7 IIs are fantastic speakers. I've owned the RF-7 IIs for a while now, and I've paired them up against Forte 3s, which I've got video for that. I've paired them up against Heresy 3s. I've got a video of that. And every time I've compared it to Chorus 2s, to Forte 2s, to Forte 3s, to Heresy 3s, pretty much everything I've thrown at it, I always went back to me preferring the sound of the RF-7 IIs. That's just what my ears prefer. So as we began to listen to the 7 IIs and the 7 IIIs, we were extremely impressed with the 7 IIIs. Absolutely, they sound phenomenal. They really do. Fortunately, one of the guys that was coming over offered to bring his stock RF-7 IIs. I was super excited about that because that meant I would not have to remove my Dean G crossovers from my RF-7 IIs. So that also meant that we would be able to compare the RF-7 IIs to the RF-7 IIs with the Dean G crossovers. So before all the guys arrived, I had my son help me move his RF-7s from his bedroom into the living room. We set up the RF-7s next to the RF-7 IIs, next to the RF-7 IIIs. And I'll be honest with you, looking at the 3 generations of RF-7s side by side was really, really incredible. These are 3 of Klipsch's flagship reference speakers, and I happen to have all 3 of them in my living room at the same time, about to demo and compare them side by side. So needless to say, I was super excited. So as the guys arrived, we of course had to bring in some equipment. One of the guys brought a Yamaha stack which included an AS-1000 integrated amplifier as well as a CD-S-1000 CD player. Another guy, of course, brought his RF-7 IIs with the stock crossovers as well as some various cables. So needless to say, all of us were pretty pumped. So we moved the second set of RF-7 IIs into the living room, positioned them right beside the RF-7 IIs with the DG crossover. Now the way that we would be switching back and forth between each speaker is by the use of banana plugs. Later on, I'm going to make a video about banana plugs and why I absolutely love them, but we'll save that for another video. So prior to the event, I had reached out to several forum members as well as people in the Facebook groups, as well as even one of the engineers at Klipsch by the name of Roy Delgado. And I asked them to kind of give me some of their suggestions for great audio demo material. So one thing we realized is that by having 4 speakers side by side, there really wasn't a great way to position them, because we all realized that as you move speakers in different placements in a room, that can greatly impact the way that that speaker sounds. So as you can see in this picture again, the outside speakers, which are the RF-7 IIIs, are placed a lot farther apart than say the RF-7s. Granted, we could have staggered them, meaning we could have put the RF-7 IIIs, then the 2s, and then the 1s, and do the same thing on the other side, but it still was just really weird. There wasn't a really great way to do that, so we did the best that we could with what we had. So we ended up spending 5.5 hours hanging out together. Not all of that time was spent listening to each speaker and A/B/C comparison. Some of it was just hanging out, fellowshipping, snacking, giving them a tour of this home theater. But we had plenty of time to listen to the 7s, 7 IIs, and 7 IIIs. And I can tell you, I absolutely love the reference series. I always have. I've owned just about every reference speaker that Klipsch has made over the years, at least the older generations. I have not owned the reference Premier series or the reference series that they're currently selling at Best Buy. But I've always really appreciated and loved the most the top tier flagship RF-7 series. So as I've shared with you in my previous videos, I need speakers that can have incredible detail, great mid-range, but also have some serious slam, because I do not have the opportunity to have a subwoofer in my living room. Now, I do want to state that this is not a paid advertisement for Klipsch. I am a true hobbyist and audio enthusiast, and I absolutely love Klipsch. I have always loved Klipsch, and I've owned a lot of Klipsch speakers over the years. Klipsch simply sent me the RF-7 IIIs to review and to compare to the RF-7s and the RF-7 IIs. They didn't give any stipulations or even any requests. They simply said, we would love for you to assess the RF-7 IIIs. So a few things I did learn from this get together. This was my first get together and definitely will not be my last. So one thing we were reminded today was speaker placement is everything. We have to realize that as you move speakers around in a room, you can get a big difference in the bass response as well as imaging and some other dynamics and the way that a speaker performs. So during one of the demos, we realized that one of the speakers did not have as much bottom end and as much bass response as the other. So we were curious to see if speaker placement was what was causing that. And sure enough, when we swapped the 2 speakers, the other speaker performed just as well in the bottom end and had just as much bass response and that kick in the chest as the other. So I would highly encourage you to try to play around with moving your speakers around. Move them out, bring them in a little bit, as well as play with the toe in, which is the amount of angle towards your listening position. Because even small increments can make a huge difference in bass response as well as imaging. So overall, the day was incredible. We were able to listen to 3 amazing speakers. So over the past several weeks, a lot of guys in the forums and in the Facebook community have been asking, Michael, should I upgrade my original 7s? Or should I upgrade my 7 IIs to the new 7 IIIs? Now I want to give you just my personal opinion of what I believe. I believe the original 7s are great speakers, but they do tend to be a little harsh on the top end. Now keep in mind, this is greatly dependent upon the type of equipment that you have hooked up to it, as well as your room. If you've got acoustic treatments on your walls versus a lot of hard surfaces, you'll likely get a better sound out of the 7s than you would, say, in my living room where I've got a lot of hard surfaces. So if you've got the original 7s, I would highly recommend upgrading the 7s to the latest and greatest 7 IIIs. They truly are an amazing speaker. Now for those of you that have the RF-7 IIs, the big question is there $1,000 or $1,500 worth of difference between the RF-7 IIs and the RF-7 IIIs? And my answer to you is, honestly, it really depends on your budget. For some of us, $1,000 or $1,500 is nothing. And so if that's you and you've got plenty of extra disposable cash, I would encourage you to upgrade to the 7 IIIs. They're not only gorgeous, but they are absolutely phenomenal. The top end is so smooth, and as I mentioned before, the speaker is just so well balanced from the top all the way down to the bottom. There wasn't one time during the demo that I listened to the 3s and thought, man, I wish that this sounded a little bit better, or I'm not really sure if I like this. Everything about it, from the highs to the mid-range to the lows, I loved. Now some of you guys look at the 7 IIIs and there's certain aspects that you don't like visually. So if you've got the 7 IIs and you love the way they look and you love the way they sound, then upgrading to the 7 IIIs probably isn't ideal for you. But if you look at the 7 IIIs and you're like, man, I totally like the way those look, and you like the way that your 7 II sound, I truly believe that you're going to enjoy the performance of the RS-7 IIIs. Now at the end of the day, several of the guys had to start heading home, and there was only a few of us left, and we had listened to all different types of music, from Bonnie Raitt to Vital Tectone to Dire Straits and the Civil War, Natalie Merchant, Incognito, and a host of other artists. But a couple of the younger fellas, including myself, wanted to hear some slam out of the 7s and the 7 IIIs. So we played several songs, and they had a lot of bass. Some of them were more musical type bass. But I really wanted to just see what the 7 IIIs could do and what the 7s could do in comparison when it came to something that had a lot of bottom end. And so one of my go-to tracks, it's not the most musical track of course, but it just absolutely slams. It's a track called Saxophone by DJ Tokuk. I found them by accident when reviewing the Forte 3s when I was looking for a jazz demo track. So I thought by searching for saxophone on Spotify would pull up some great jazz. And I click on this track and oh my goodness, the bass from the RF-7 IIIs and the 7 IIs was phenomenal. So I turned up the Harman Kardon to -5 dB and pulled out my SPL meter. And at -5 dB, being driven with an Acurus A200, which is a 200 by 2 channel amp, the dB meter was hitting anywhere between 100 to 112 dB. Now honestly guys, that was loud. But one thing I absolutely love about the RF-7 series is the more you crank them, as long as you give them clean power, the better they sound. They absolutely continue to perform with great clarity, with great detail, and an incredible amount of slam. This was my first audio get together, and man, one thing that I appreciate is the ability to get together with some guys that love Klipsch and love audio. I've had plenty of opportunities to meet some great, incredible men and have become good friends over the years. From the time that they walk in the door and you shake hands and introduce yourself, you already have a camaraderie. Now once again, our time together was not designed to be a scientific experiment. I realized that the way we have the speaker set up might not be the way that you would have set it up. I also realized that some guys would have recommended to have a speaker selector with a remote so you could easily switch back from A to B to C. And I get that, and that would have been great, but we didn't have it. What we had was 5 guys and myself hanging out in my living room with Klipsch's 3 flagship RF-7 series speakers. Well guys, that's going to wrap up this video. I'm going to continue to produce several more videos of the RF-7 IIIs. One of the things I want to do is actually give you some audio comparisons I'm borrowing a Zoom H4n digital recorder. I'm hoping that that'll provide better audio quality for you guys than the Rode VideoMic Pro that I'm using for these videos. Unfortunately, the Rode VideoMic Pro, although it's good for me talking to the camera, it's not ideal for stereo recording. Number one, because it's a shotgun microphone, and number two, I found out that it's a mono microphone. So hopefully the Zoom recorder will give you a better idea of how these might sound. But again, there's no way that I can physically record an exact replication of what my ears are hearing in my living room. But you guys keep asking for it, so I'm gonna do my best to give you the best audio quality recording that I can come up with. If you're looking to upgrade your Klipsch speakers, I highly recommend you contact Corey Harrison at Paducah Home Theater. Corey's an amazing guy. He's a licensed Klipsch dealer. He'll take good care of you, and he'll also get you the best price on some great speakers. I'll post a link to Corey's website down in the description below, as well as some other information that we talked about during this video. Well guys, I hope this video has been enjoyable to you. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that bell notification because I'll continue to produce more videos of Klipsch speakers and home theater. Well, as always guys, hope your week is blessed, and we'll see you in the next video.